give her a break. Has she not suffered enough? Hey everyone, Henry Yellow here, welcome back. Right now we are going to watch Jane Eyre from 1943. This movie is directed by Robert Stevenson, and the reason it is part of our Kurosawa Fort Wells run is because Orson Welles is playing one of the main characters in this movie. Another main character is Joan Fontaine, who plays Jane Eyre. And she was also in Rebecca, and she played the Mrs. De Winter in Rebecca quite well, so I'm also looking forward to her performance as Jane Eyre. I didn't know how to pronounce this name at first, Jane Eyre. I had to Google it because I was pronouncing it Jane Eyre. But after Googling it, I realized that the Y is silent. There are many versions of the movie Jane Eyre. One from 2011, another one from 1996, another one from 1997. There are a lot of movies made, and the original was an 1847 novel written by Charlotte Bronte. The story must be really good if it was adapted into so many movies, so I'm excited to watch it. Let's go.
My name is Jane Eyre. I was born in 1820, a harsh time of change in England. Religion too often wore a mask of bigotry and cruelty. As a child, I lived with my aunt, Mrs. Reed of Gateshead Hall. I do not remember that she ever spoke one kind word to me.
Aww, her aunt doesn't treat her well.
Come on out, Jane Eyre. Mrs. Reed wants to see you in the drawing room.
So she lives in that tiny room?
She's the daughter of my late husband's sister, by an unfortunate union which we in the family prefer to forget.
The recipient, I can clearly see, of every care which a loving benefactress could lavish upon her.
What?
Only this morning she struck her little cousin most brutally and without provocation.
That isn't true.
Jane.
He hit me first. Silence.
You see, Mr. Brocklehurst, how passionate and wicked she is.
I do indeed. Do you know where the wicked go after death?
They go to hell.
And should you like to fall into that pit and be burning there forever?
No, sir.
Then what must you do to avoid it?
I must keep in good health and not die.
You have heard the name of Lowood. It is a school for unfortunate orphans. Would you like to go there, little girl?
You mean not live here anymore?
Maybe that's a good thing.
You wish to go?
Yes, sir.
You've made a wise choice. Wiser than you know.
Hopefully so.
And make you meek and humble and penitent. We shall do our best to collaborate with the Almighty.
Well, yeah, take her out of this terrible place. She's clearly being tortured here.
Here's a keepsake, Jane. It'll help you remember me.
Come on, hurry up.
Be a good girl, and I hope you'll be happy.
Thank you, Bessie. Goodbye.
I hope so too. Her Aunt Reed is the one that's going to hell.
I'll never come and see you when I'm grown up, and I'll never call you aunt as long as I live. The very sight of you makes me sick.
Fair enough.
I shall have drawing lessons and French lessons, and there'll be hundreds of other girls to play with.
What's the name of this school of yours?
It's called Lowood.
Lowood.
I really hope that Lowood is a better place and not a place where they mistreat orphans. The music does not sound promising.
I was to waken in the morning to find my dreams of Lowood shattered. In their place was to stand a school that was more like a prison.
Well, that's just great. Out of the frying pan into the fire.
Observe this child. Who would believe that the evil one had already found in her a servant and an agent? Avoid her company. Exclude her from your sports. And shut her out from your converse. Punish her body to save her soul.
Damn, he's a sadist.
This girl, this child, the native of a Christian land, this girl is a liar. Let her remain on that stool. Let no one speak to her for the rest of the day.
He's isolating her. A very strict and cold place. And Brocklehurst is a sadistic ruler.
Didn't you hear what he said? He said you mustn't have anything to do with me. I'm not bad. I promise I'm not.
You're not, they are.
I hate him. It's wrong to hate people. I can't help it. I want people to love me and believe in me and be kind to me. I'd let my arm be broken if it would make anyone love me. Or let a horse kick me.
I don't blame Jane for hating the place and hating the people here.
Helen, where does that road go? I told you before, to Bradford. We'll drive along it one day, when we're grown up, Helen. And I'll have beautiful curly hair just like yours. And I'll play the piano and talk French, almost as well as you do.
All she wants is love, and yet all she got was a terrible childhood.
That cough doesn't seem any better, Helen. You keep your schoolroom uncommonly cold, Mr. Brocklehurst.
Our aim is not to pamper the body, but to strengthen the soul.
I should hardly have thought that a bad cough was any aid to salvation.
It's not about strengthening the soul. He just wants to see them suffer.
Edwards, I insist on your holding your head up. I will not have you stand before me in that attitude. Is this young person permitted to wear her hair in one mass of curls?
Her hair curls naturally.
How often must I tell you we are not here to conform to nature?
Well, your hair is curled at the front.
Please, sir, don't do that. You can cut mine, sir, as much as you wish, but please...
Silence! First vanity, and now insurrection. It shall be rooted out.
Who hurt him when he was a child?
Good heavens, madam, what are those children doing out in the rain?
It was Mr. Brocklehurst's order.
Well, bring them in at once.
Look down upon this miserable sinner, and grant that the sense of her weakness may give strength to her faith.
Was it Providence that sent that poor girl to get drenched in the rain?
Dr.
Was
Rivers?
it Providence that ordered her to her death? Yes, to her death, Mr. Brocklehurst.
I'm not afraid, Jane.
Helen.
Don't cry, Jane. I don't want you to cry. Good night, Jane. Good night, Helen. It's morning. Helen!
He killed her.
Come, Jane.
No, I want to stay here. I want to be with Helen.
Helen's with God. God wants children to be brave and strong. Won't you do what God wants?
No, I can't go back to school. I'll never go back. I'll run away.
Jane, you know what duty is, don't you? Duty is what you have to do even when you don't want to do it. Your duty is to prepare yourself to do God's work in the world.
And what is Mr. Brocklehurst's duty then?
An ignorant woman or an educated one. So you know you have to go back to school, even though you may hate the very thought of it. Isn't that true?
Oh, that school is not a normal school. I was hoping Dr. Rivers would take her away.
A very stiff-necked and evil child. Fidea's been with us 10 years.
Tortured for 10 years.
I don't need to remind you of the advantages of appointing one of our own pupils as teacher. An outsider would have to be paid twice as much. Your wages will be 20 guineas per annum, from which only 10 will be withheld for board and lodging, for spiritual instruction and laundry. Your duties will begin on the first day of the new term.
I cannot accept your offer, sir.
The ingratitude.
What have I to be grateful for? 10 years of harshness and strife.
Silence!
Harshness and silence, yep.
You have no talents. Your disposition is dark and rebellious. Your appearance insignificant.
He keeps trying to put everyone down.
If you persist in your folly, this haven will never again be open to you.
I am leaving Lowood, sir.
Also, he appointed her teacher without asking her consent anyway.
Jane, it's not every young woman that can face the world single-handed. But you know what right is. You'll stick to it through thick and thin.
Helen died so young because of mistreatment. Thankfully, Jane survived. Why does the music sound so ominous? Don't tell me she's going somewhere terrible again. Give her a break. Has she not suffered enough?
I'm Mrs. Fairfax. Why, your hand is like ice. Come, I'll take you straight to your room. I'm only the housekeeper. Thornfield belongs to Mr. Edward Rochester, and little Adele is his ward. Here is your room, my dear. It's quite small. Oh, it's very beautiful.
The biggest room she's ever had.
Bonjour, mademoiselle.
Dude,
I had a dress like that, mademoiselle. I can dance too. Do you wish to see?
Now, this very moment.
Now you speak like Monsieur Rochester. Oh, he made us never the right moment. Mais jamais.
I was just thinking that never in my life have I been awakened so happily.
I can believe that. Oh, Jane learned to play the piano?
But then Mama had gone to the Holy Virgin. Monsieur Rochester came and took me across the sea. He sits here and stares into the fire and frowns like this.
Is he as bad as that?
Twice as bad. I cannot make out bad he is.
Can I do anything?
Stand out of the way.
I'm sorry I frightened your horse.
Where you from?
From Mr. Rochester's house just below.
You're not a servant at the hall.
I'm the new governess.
Oh.
That's Mr. Rochester. Orson Welles.
Quick, dear, off with your things. He's been asking to see the new governess. Who? Why, Mr. Rochester, of course.
Shouldn't you put ice on that instead? No, I guess they don't have ice.
Where'd he come from?
From Lowood Institution, sir. It's a charity school. I was there 10 years.
10 years. You must be tenacious of life. No wonder you have rather the look of another world. Do you play the piano?
A little.
Sit down at the piano and play a tune. Enough! You play a little, I see. Perhaps rather better than some. Not well.
Thank you for the compliment.
What sort of man was this master of Thornfield, so proud, sardonic, and harsh? Beneath the harsh mask he assumed lay a tortured soul, fine, gentle, and kindly.
Too much noise, Grace. I've spoken to you before. I'm so sorry. I had to say something to Grace Poole. She's a person we have to do the sewing. How did you get on with Mr. Rochester, my dear?
Is he always so changeful and abrupt?
Partly because that's his nature, and partly, too, because he has painful thoughts.
What about?
Family troubles. I think that's why he so seldom comes to Thornfield. It has unpleasant associations for him.
Sit down, Miss Eyre. No. Go on further back. Down just here. I placed it. You examined me, Miss Eyre. Do you find me handsome?
No, sir.
Indeed. Does my forehead not please you? What do you tell from my head? Am I a fool? Would you say it is the head of a kindly man?
Hardly that, sir.
Very well, madam. Fortune's knocked me about, kneaded me with her knuckles, till now I flatter myself I'm as hard and tough as an India rubber ball, with perhaps one small sensitive point in the middle of the lump.
You pay me £30 a year for receiving your orders?
Quite forgotten that. Well, on that mercenary ground, won't you agree to let me hector you a little?
Not on that ground, but on the ground that you did forget it, and inquired of my feelings as an equal.
Good. Well, then, let me dispense with the conventional forms without thinking me insolent.
I should never mistake informality for insolence. One I rather like. The other no freeborn person would submit to even for a salary.
Don't I look beautiful, monsieur? This is how Mamma used to do it, is it not?
That's how she charmed my English gold out of my breeches pocket.
And I shall dance for you.
You will not.
He doesn't even let Adele call him father. Looks like Adele's mother was a gold digger.
Whatever your past misfortune, you have no right to revenge yourself on the child.
You're quite right, of course. I was as green as you once. Now my spring is gone, leaving me what? This little artificial French flower.
Adele never did anything wrong. It was her mother. So don't take it out on her.
Hope you'll be happy at Thornfield.
I hope so, sir. I think so.
I'm glad.
Just like how Jane didn't let her past make her a bitter person and treat others harshly. Fire?
Mr. Rochester!
Done it.
I think someone must have tried to kill you. I heard footsteps along the gallery.
Can't be that woman we saw. Grace Poole?
There's a strange woman here called Grace Poole.
Just so. Meanwhile, say nothing about this to anyone. I once had the misfortune to be in love with this. To be jealous of that. You can know that a person's worthless without heart or mind or scruple, yet suffer to the point of torture when she betrays you. I gave her some money and turned her out, whereupon she decamped with an Italian painter, leaving me with what she said was my daughter.
Is it not your daughter?
Adele has had so little love. I shall try to make up for it.
Are you always drawn to the loveless and unfriended?
When it's deserved.
Because she has experienced it herself.
Would you say that my life deserved saving?
I should be distressed if harm came to you, sir.
But you did save my life tonight. I knew you'd do me good in some way, sometime.
Mrs. Fairfax,
Yes, my dear.
did Mr. Rochester tell you how the fire started?
He was reading in bed and fell asleep with the candle lit. And the curtains took fire. Why do you ask?
The soundproof door? What was that?
No one is allowed up here. Understand? No one.
I don't think she was the one who screamed.
Had the mystery in the tower driven him madly away? Just as we seemed so close together, I found a measure of escape in the happiness of Adele.
Jane is giving Adele the love that Jane herself never had as a child.
Who's that riding with Mr. Rochester?
Haven't you heard about Miss Ingram and Mr. Rochester? It wouldn't surprise me if it came to an engagement one of these days.
Didn't I tell you that Blanche had set her cap at him?
Well, he is very romantic and enormously rich.
Oh, Miss Eyre, Mr. Rochester wishes you to bring Adele to the drawing room after dinner.
He only asked me out of politeness.
Nonsense, he said. If she objects, I'll come and fetch her myself. Of course, you must wear your very best, my dear. I think the black.
She only has a few outfits anyway.
Splendid match, Sir George. 6,000 or 7,000 a year at least.
Sora,
Rochester, may I sing now?
I think we've had enough music.
Edward, I thought you weren't fond
No,
of children.
nor am I. Run along, dear. Go back to the drawing room. You're leaving too early.
I'm a little tired, sir.
Yes, and a little depressed. So much depressed that a few words more and there'll be tears in your eyes. See, they're there now. Shining, swimming.
Well, tell him Mr. Mason. Mr. Mason of Spanish Town, Jamaica.
Very good.
Jane, if all the people in that room came and spat on me, what would you do?
I'd turn them out of the room.
And dropped off and left me. One by one. Would you go with them?
I would stay with you, sir.
I wonder what's going on there.
The noise came from down there.
One of the maids had a bad dream, woke up screaming. Moral of that is, don't eat toasted cheese for supper.
Good night, Edwin.
Sweet dreams, my courageous Blanche. Jane, are you awake?
Yes, sir.
Come out then quietly. What you see may shock and frighten. I beg you not to seek an explanation. Don't try to understand. You will sponge the blood as I do now. Whatever happens, do not open a door. Either door.
Mysterious. What is this all about? And then there's the woman Grace Poole and now Mr. Mason.
Now, Doctor, be on the alert. Give you half an hour for dressing the wound, getting the patient downstairs and all.
She sank her teeth into me like a tigress.
Forget it. Jane, go down the back stairs and bolt the side passage door. Told you not to come up here!
I thought I could have done some good.
You thought!
That can't be Adele's mother, right? Rochester said Adele's mother went off with someone else.
Let her be treated as tenderly as may be.
I do my best and have done it and will do it. House is a dungeon, sepulcher. Here everything is fresh, real, and pure. I want you to use your fancy. Suppose yourself a boy, a thoughtless, impetuous boy, indulged from childhood upwards. Conceive that you there commit a capital error, one that cuts you off from the possibility of all human joys. Suddenly, fate offers you the chance of regeneration and true happiness. Are you justified in overleaping the obstacles of mere custom?
How can I answer, sir? Every conscience must come to its own decision.
If you're afraid that you may bring shame to what you most cherish or destroy what you most desire to protect, the night before I'm married, will you sit with me then?
Are you going to be married, sir?
You don't know these young ladies of fashion. They may not admire my person, but I assure you they dote on my purse.
Do you really want those ladies, though? Yeah, it's clear that Jane loves him.
You as good as told me that you were going to be married, in which case Adele ought to go to school.
To get her out of my bride's way, who otherwise might walk over her rather too emphatically. Well, Adele, as you say, must go to school. You must go to the devil, is that it?
I hope not, sir, unless it's the devil who answers my advertisement.
Time comes for you to get a new situation. I'll get one for you. Do you hear?
Very well, sir. Goodbye, Mr. Rochester.
Won't you do more than just say goodbye?
Well, I'll shake hands, sir.
Goodbye, Jane.
Jane can't bear to stay in the same place as the man she loves. But how does Rochester feel?
House full of beautiful women every now and then to keep him brooding on his woes, peering too closely into the mysteries of his heart.
That is if he has a heart.
Have I ever done or said anything to make you believe that I have? If so, I assure you it was quite unintentional.
Are you never silly? You can be revoltingly coarse at times.
Can I ever be anything else? Lady Ingram is somewhat impoverished, whereas the revolting Mr. Rochester has an assured income of $8,000 a year. She'd ignore the coarseness, etc., till such times Mr. R. safely
How
focused.
dare you?
No horseplay.
Mr. Rochester, you are a bore and a cur.
Is that how it is?
I thought you'd gone.
Changed my mind. Or rather, the Ingram family changed theirs.
I was thinking about having to leave Thornfield.
It's always the way in this life. No sooner have you got settled in a pleasant resting place, you're summoned to move on.
As I told you, sir, I shall be ready when the order comes.
It's come now. Let's make the most of what time has left us. Let us sit here in peace. It's as if I had a string somewhere under my left rib, tightly and inextricably knotted to a similar string situated in a corresponding corner of your little frame. And if we should have to be parted, that cord of communion would be snapped, and I should take to bleeding inwardly.
Do you think I could stay here to become nothing to you? If God had gifted me with wealth and beauty, I should have made it as hard for you to leave me as it is now for me to leave you.
You're off the Blanche. It's you I want. Say Edward, I'll marry you. Say it, Jane. Say it. Say Edward, I'll marry you.
Edward, I'll marry you.
God, pardon me.
Damn, I got goosebumps. Whoa.
I loved and I was loved. Every sunlit hour I looked forward to love's fulfillment.
For a moment, I thought that there was a curse lifted or something.
Because I'm going to marry Mademoiselle and take Mademoiselle to the moon.
Monsieur, there is no one I'd rather you marry, not even Mrs. Fairfax.
Mrs. Fairfax. Well, seems like things are turning out well. Looks like the Great Wall of China.
If either of you know any impediment why you may not lawfully be joined in matrimony, ye do now confess it.
I declare the existence of an impediment. Mr. Rochester has a wife, now living.
Who are you?
My name is Briggs. Edward Rochester of Thornfield Hall was married to Bertha Mason at St. Mary's Church, Spanish Town, Jamaica.
She's now living at Thornfield. I've seen her there myself. I'm her brother.
So he has a wife.
That gentleman is my wife, mad, and the offspring of a mad family, whom the church and law bind me forever without hope of divorce.
And everyone leaves him. But if his wife is mad, why not? Why is she not in an asylum?
Jane. I did not even know her. I was married at 19 in Spanish Town to a bride already courted for me. I watched her excesses drive her at last into madness. Jane added everything that God and humanity demanded. And I fled from this place. My fixed desire was to find a woman I could love. And then later that evening, do you remember, Jane? Say you remember.
I remember.
And then you smiled at me. That moment I knew I'd found you. Can you not forgive me?
I do forgive you.
Stay with me, Jane. We'd be hurting nobody.
We should be hurting ourselves.
You will not be my comforter, my rescuer.
God keep you from harm and wrong.
Jane. Jane. Jane.
Without references, I could not find employment. At last, old memories, rather than my will, drew me back to Gateshead Hall.
Is Bessie even still there?
If you're looking for work, we haven't got no work for no one nowadays. Where'd you get that brooch?
You gave it to me, Bessie.
Jane!
Don't tell Aunt Rita I'm here, or Cousin John, or anyone.
Master John isn't here anymore. Gambling, that's what it was. Thousands and thousands of pounds the missus paid for him. He killed himself, Miss Jane. They found him hanging in his room, and the cards still on the table where they'd played the night before. And they told the missus she had a kind of stroke.
Who are you? Go away.
I'm Jane, Aunt Reed.
Oh, don't leave me, Jane. Please don't leave me.
I won't leave you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to make some inquiries about a niece of hers, Miss Eyre.
Oh, would you wait inside a moment, sir? A gentleman to see you, Miss Jane.
I don't want to see him. I don't want to see anyone.
Now, don't be foolish. I'll sit with the missus. Run along now. He's waiting.
Who could that be? Dr. Rivers?
How did you know I was here?
I didn't. I was trying to find you. I received an inquiry about you the other day. It comes from a lawyer in Milkett. A client of his wants to know your whereabouts. Jane, if you don't want me to talk about this anymore, I won't.
Yeah, I suppose Jane is not able to accept that she couldn't marry Rochester. And now her aunt is dead too. No, she must not go back to Mr. Brocklehurst. See, even the wind is telling you, don't. You're making a mistake.
Jane.
Damn, I'm getting goosebumps.
It seemed the cry of a soul in pain, an appeal so wild and urgent that I knew I must go, and go quickly.
She struck down Grace Poole as she slept, and then she set fire to Thornfield. And there she was on the roof, laughing and waving her arms above the battlements. Mr. Edward saw her as he came out, but went straight back into the house to try to save her.
Try to save her?
He came towards her to help her down. And just as he seemed to reach her, he gave a dreadful scream and ran from him to the edge. The next moment, she lay smashed on the pavement before us.
Rochester was still trying to save her at that point. It's so crazy that a fire could do so much damage to a place like this. He's blind?
Adele is waiting for a supper.
Yes.
Sir. Who are you?
Edward.
Small, soft fingers. Here. All you can feel now is mere pity. I don't want your pity.
Edward.
Can't spend your life on the mere wreckage of a man.
Don't send me away. Please don't send me away.
You think I want to let you go?
As the months went past, he came to see the light once more, as well as to feel its warmth. When our firstborn was put into his arms, he could see that the boy had inherited his own eyes as they once were, large, brilliant, and black.
I'm glad that Rochester was not permanently blind. I was thinking to myself, why does such a tragic thing have to happen before they got together? I am so glad to see that they got a happy ending after all that they've been through. two souls who experienced their own challenges and suffering and ended up together. Jane Eyre, a little girl who was abused by her aunt and then sent away to suffer in a charity orphan school, a school that was ruled over by a sadistic director. Jane endured her aunt's abuse in her childhood, and then she endured 10 years of suffering at the school before she was finally able to escape. Rochester, on the other hand, based on his own words, seems like he was raised kind of a spoiled child, but then he had his own set of problems the moment he came of age. He said that he married his wife in Spanish Town when he was 19, and the girl had already been courted for him. Does that mean it was an arranged marriage? If it was an arranged marriage, that means he had no say and no choice in the matter. When the truth about Rochester's mad wife came to light, I honestly thought that Jane would still stand by Rochester and stay with him. Turns out I was wrong. She chose to leave him. I suppose it's because she cannot accept that she could not officially marry Rochester. But the unexpected part was she ended up going back to her aunt to read, and she chose to take care of her aunt until her aunt passed away. That is an unbelievable amount of forgiveness, because when she left her aunt, she said,
I hate you and I hate everything about you. I'll never come and see you when I'm grown up, and I'll never call you aunt as long as I live. The very sight of you makes me sick.
Yeah, she said all of that. But when she grew up, I guess she found the strength to forgive her aunt for all the abuse. It's not easy to grant forgiveness like that. Like, heck, I can't forgive her aunt, even at this point, nor can I forgive Mr. Brocklehurst for how he treated Helen and Jane. It's a good thing that the wind came and told Helen, no, you do not want to go back to that orphanage school no matter what happens. One last point that I'd like to mention is that Jane, even though she was abused, even though she suffered in her childhood, she did not grow up to become a bitter woman who wants to make others suffer like she did. She grew up understanding how it felt to be abused, and she didn't want anyone else to feel the same way. She grew up without love, and that's why she didn't want Adele to experience the same thing, and she gave Adele the love that Adele never got from Rochester. The point that I'm trying to make here is we are not our past. We can break the cycle of abuse, the cycle of negativity, and Jane is a good example of that. Her past experience, in fact, gave her empathy and understanding, and that's why she was able to forgive and understand and accept Rochester more than any other girl that Rochester has ever been with. Of course, Jane didn't bring a big change to the world, helping hundreds or thousands of millions of people, but she brought the change to the people close to her, and sometimes that is enough. The movie made me tear up a few times. Overall, I did enjoy this movie. It was a very tragic story during Jane's childhood. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, what you think of the movie. Thanks for watching it with me. Hope you enjoyed my reaction, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.